I'm definitely polyamorous and I'm really kinky.
What do you think is the secret to commencing a threesome?
I've had a lot of threesomes. I've had a lot of group sex in general.
You exude, I would say, confidence.
It's an illusion.
Boom, I'm out. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Queer Collective Podcast. My name's Carbon.
And I'm Emily.
And I'm Yaz.
Today, we are joined by a very special guest, our friend Yaz at Yaz The Human. They are a non-binary sex educator, sex worker, bisexual slut, if I dare say so myself. Today, we are here to make an episode for all those who are poly-curious. The first thing that we want to chat about before we really dive into the conversation about polyamory, about how you can start being polyamorous, is hearing a little bit about your journey and how you came into polyamory.
I actually don't remember the first time that I heard about polyamory. I have no idea. I think it'd be safest to say that I was exposed to it through the media somehow, and there was some kind of negative connotation attached to it. So the earliest understanding or perception I had of polyamory was that polyamorous people were greedy. It was only related to sex. Like, there's something funky going on there and you should steer clear of that. But when I was 19, I was very much in love with my girlfriend who I was living with at the time. And I remember just being like, I want to try opening up our relationship. And there were a couple of different avenues through which we'd explored potentially doing that. The main one being finding someone to have a threesome with. And that didn't end up happening for us. It ended up being one of the catalysts for why that relationship didn't. There were a lot of other things. I was kind of a piece of shit to be I mean, she wasn't perfect either, but like it became undeniable at one point that I was like, I think I'm polyamorous. Like there's something that I have to discover here. So then once we broke up, it was also about the same time that I was going through a really intense like spiritual bypassing phase.
Interesting.
Where I was just like a different kind of raging cunt, where I was using like spiritual terminology and community as a way to kind of like feel superior then, or like I was on like a weird enlightenment flex.
Right.
Ah, I see.
Have you ever experienced such a thing?
I've almost gotten like gone down that rabbit hole of like I am awakening and I am feeling all these things, and then it has every now and then gotten to the point where internally, I'm like, I'm better than you. Like secretly in my head.
So anyway, I started going down I took a wrong turn, right? During that experience, I was like, I need to be celibate, because that's also one of the messages that you get in that community. Like you can't give away your life force. You can't like, it's very sacred. Like sex is sacred. And I was like, right, like sex is bad. And it like put in like a different flavor of like purity culture into me. So I did a year of celibacy. When I came out of this year of celibacy, when I say I could not keep my legs closed, I was just really, really going at it. And I was like, I'm definitely polyamorous and I'm really kinky. And it's time for me to start figuring out how to find relationships that allow me to be honest about these parts of myself. Now I'm here. And I have very core parts of who I am and how I identify. And
so that celibacy was like, you heard of the elastic band effect? You just like hold back. Right. And then once you release, it's like,
yeah.
When you brought up the fact that your journey kind of started out with you and your former partner wanting to open up into a threesome, was it a negative experience? How did that go?
Wait, we did a threesome once, but it was before we started dating.
Oh, okay.
Which is interesting. I was actually dating somebody else at the time, and they came in as a threesome. I've had a lot of threesomes. I've had a lot of group sex in general. Like I started having threesomes in high school.
Wow, in high school.
Yeah.
Love that for you.
I really do love that for you.
What do you think is the secret to commencing a threesome? Like, does it always have to be something that you like pre-plan?
Yeah, is it spontaneous?
I've had a couple spontaneous ones.
How do you initiate a spontaneous group sex moment?
Well, there's so many different factors, right? There's so many different like contexts through which you could be coming into it with. So let's say hypothetically, me and my partner, we are out at a bar together and we meet someone and we both start flirting with them and we take them home, right? There's that one. But then there could also be a potential where three complete strangers meet.
I love it.
Like there's just so many different variations that it could
Have you had that where it's just three complete strangers?
No, I haven't, but that sounds really, really, really fun.
Right?
Any strangers watching this right now? Come find me later. But no, I haven't done that. I've had threesomes with people who I wasn't like dating. That were just like friends. I mean, I'd love to know more if you're willing to share about what you're kind of looking for when you're thinking about potentially bringing a third person into your relationship.
I feel like I am bisexual. I've been struggling with that. I had like bad sexual experiences with men for a while, which made me feel like I was a lesbian because I just didn't feel safe with men. And now I'm starting to feel more safe with men as I'm like healing that issue. So like I would feel more interested in bringing a man in, or a more like a dominant woman or non-binary person. I feel like you're just interested in another femme person.
Yeah, that's for the most part correct. I am, I don't know, as time goes on, it does shift a little bit. Like now I'd be like, okay, like somebody a little bit more androgynous would be really nice. Somebody a little bit more like, not necessarily hyper femme, maybe like, you know, somewhere in the middle where it's like they can embody masculine energy and feminine energy. I feel like I would be super into that. But I do have a hard time with men in general. I don't know what it is.
Fair.
I really don't know what it is because I haven't had bad experiences, to be honest. Like,
And is it cis men in particular, or is it like the men archetype?
for sure, like cis hetero men, I think.
You like?
No.
Oh, no,
We don't
It's
like.
it's a
Got
X.
It's a no.
Okay.
Cross
Okay.
it out.
Got it.
But beyond that, I don't know if it's like the physical or if it's the energy. I'm still unsure of that, to be honest.
Okay. So the first step that you say that you're getting stuck on is agreeing on who it is that this person might be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
I feel like that might be like the least of your worries, to be honest.
Oh,
I feel
yeah?
like
Explain more.
I just feel like there's so many other things that you could be doing preemptively to prepare yourselves for what a threesome might look like. And then if a moment were to arise where you're like, this person, and you're like, yes, and you're both like, oh my God, like we found someone. This is, I mean, they have to also agree. That by the time that person shows up in your lives, that like you've done all the other work leading up to what,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
What does that other work look like?
Figuring out in hypothetical situations. So being like, hey, how would you feel if in a threesome situation, this person started doing something to me that you don't do to me? How would that make you feel? Or how are you going to feel? Do you imagine when you see me coming based on what this other person has done to me? I think it's a lot of just like coming up with made up scenarios and starting to walk through what your reactions to those might be.
Yeah.
And dealing with some of the assumptions that you might be making about things. For example, if you were like, oh, like I would assume that it's totally cool for us to go all the way, whatever that means to you, to like do all the things. And then you're like, oh, that's not what I was thinking at all. I actually have boundaries about this, this, and this. And I think also one of the most important things to recognize when you're having a threesome as a couple is recognizing couples privilege. So recognizing that you you hold more power in this situation than this other person who's coming in. So yes, of course, how are you going to keep one another safe and comfortable? But what are your commitments to making sure that this other person is going to feel safe as well? So like talking about all of those things ahead of time, and then you'll settle on a hottie eventually. I'm sure of it.
That is all really good advice, though.
I
It's good points.
I see it in your futures for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe now. You sprinkled your dust.
Yeah, I think so.
Your sexy slut dust.
Slutty threesome dust.
Yes.
Just like salt
I
bay.
just carry a
Where
little
you're
bit
just
with me.
The next little bit that we want to chat about is kind of like the pressures of a monogamous society. And you kind of spoke of that a little bit. But I was kind of wondering if you could talk about the societal pressures to be monogamous and how that has affected you and kind of like your everyday life.
So everything around us pretty much encourages us to be monogamous. We're slowly starting to get more media representation, more education around these things, more language for these things. So it's becoming like more part of some of our vernaculars and stuff. But the way that our legal system has been set up encourages monogamy. The way that like everything, this relationship escalator is embedded in our Western culture, right? How it's affected me personally, not so much.
How have you sort of like pushed that aside?
I literally just said, I want nothing to do with this. Fuck it. Like I just feel like I've broken a lot of rules in my life, and I feel very much in between on everything. Not my political views, but like I'm bisexual. I'm non-binary. I'm polyamorous. Like I'm just in.
True,
I'm just in between, right? Like in terms of my aesthetic, I'm like I'm not one thing. Like I'm just so like in between everything. I dropped out of university. I said fuck it to a regular job. I just like,
same.
you know, you just made your own rules.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough in the sense that while my family wasn't necessarily like ecstatic about it, they didn't get rid of me. I still had a certain like safety net of support from my family that made it okay for me to bend the rules so much. So like there was maybe I came out as bisexual when I was 11 years old. And I told my mom
that early.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm never getting married and I'm never having children. So I've just known this about
when
myself.
you were 11.
When I was 11. So I've known this about myself forever. So like whatever pressure a lot of people are feeling like in their 20s from their parents that are like, get married. My mom gave up on that. Gave up on me a long friggin' time ago.
And how did they react initially?
Oh, my mom cried. Yeah. So my mom is a first generation Iranian person. And yeah, she was like, your life's going to be so hard. What did I do wrong? And my mom's best friend at the time was bisexual.
Oh.
And my parents were very much like, gay people are amazing, gay rights, blah, blah.
Right.
But
yeah,
you shouldn't be gay because then your life's going to be so hard. And I understand
for sure.
the love behind that. It's just like kind of backwards. But I'm also like, my mom like fled from Iran when she was 16 years old. It's punishable by death.
Yeah.
Like I get why she's nervous for me.
For sure. How are they now?
My mom's like, yeah, like she gets it for the most part. I think the hardest thing, like coming out as queer, okay, she got over it. She's met my like non-male partners before and like that's fine. Coming out as polyamorous was a little bit more complicated.
For sure, yeah.
Because again, most people's assumptions about that is that it's purely sexual. So she was like, I don't want to hear about that.
Right.
I'm like, you wouldn't say that if I said, oh, I've started dating someone. You wouldn't be like, oh, dating equals you're having sex and I don't want to hear about it.
Right.
I'm you know what I mean? So there was just like a weird thing. And she's slowly started to come around, coming out as non-binary. She was confused at first. She was like, it'd be so much easier if you were just telling me that you were a man.
Oh,
like, I don't,
it's something that she
understands.
I don't,
like,
because of
sort
the
of like
binary.
can characterize it.
Yeah, we can it's more tangible, right? But like,
yeah.
what is this? And she's come a long way. Telling her I was a sex worker. That one almost killed her, I think. And I also was strategic. I told her in public. We were at a restaurant, so that just in case, so she wouldn't like get really mad at me when we were in public.
You're just like, eat your eggs, mom. Just eat your eggs.
For breakfast.
Yeah.
We're at brunch, mom.
Yeah, like keep it together. But honestly, she's come a long way, and like I'm really proud of her. And my dad, I don't know, I don't have any kind of relationship with him, but like I told you earlier, it turns out the man was following me on Instagram. So he knows all of this.
There's some distant relationship that's just like neither of you are talking about.
Yeah, really bizarre.
The next kind of bit that I wanted to jump into is the actual crash course, if you may, on polyamory. So the different types of relationship structures that exist within polyamory, those being like open versus polyamorous, hierarchical versus non-hierarchical.
Okay, here we go. Seatbelts. So let me start this by saying that I'm not an expert by any means. I read a lot about polyamory. I engage a lot of content related to polyamory, and I'm a polyamorous person myself. But I highly recommend the two of you, as well as anyone who's listening, to get information from multiple sources and just like don't take my word for gospel, essentially.
Okay.
We can look at the big umbrella being ethical non-monogamy or whatever, non-monogamy. Anything that is not monogamy. So under this big umbrella of non-monogamy, we have open relationships, polyamory, relationship anarchy, swinging, lots of different like tentacles. And some of them can relate to one another. So let's start. Polyamory defined is the practice of or the capacity to love more than one person at the same time or to engage in romantic partnership with more than one person. An open relationship, the main distinction between open and polyamory is that an open relationship is typically only reserved for sexual intimacy. So if you two are in an open relationship, you're allowed to have sexual play partners with other people, but you draw the line at like going on a date with someone or developing feelings for someone. But how do you really put a limit on that?
Yeah.
How do you gauge that? I have no idea. I've never been in an open relationship. It makes no sense for me in my life, but the people who are ethically doing it, like that sounds amazing. You'd have to have somebody on else to talk about that because I have no idea what that's
Fair
about.
enough.
A polyamorous relationship can be an open relationship, but it can also be closed. So let's say the three of us, we start dating and we are in a polyamorous relationship between the three of us that is closed. Which means that we are in a relationship, but you can't go see somebody else. I can't go see someone else. And the three of us are in an equal relationship between us. But if we were in a polyamorous relationship that was open, we are in a triad. So the relationship, again, exists between three people, but we're all free to develop romantic, sexual, all the different types of intimate connections that we can have with other people.
Gotcha.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where the hierarchies kind of come in. It's like that would be the main relationship, and then the other ones are kind of like
potentially
below.
So then you could be in a polyamorous relationship that is open, that is hierarchical. You could be in a polyamorous relationship that's open, that's non-hierarchical. What is a hierarchy? First, second, third, primary, secondary, tertiary. Let's go back to this example. The three of us in a relationship, we are in an open polyamorous relationship, but we are one another's primary partners.
Yeah.
What makes us primary partners? Perhaps the three of us all live together. Perhaps we share finances together. Perhaps we don't have any type of entanglement in a tangible way, but we have just decided that we want our relationship to be at the utmost importance, and whoever else that you're seeing, you're going to tell them, you are not the most important person to me. This relationship is what is going to always take precedence. And I have kind of a little bit of a problem with it.
What's the problem?
Do tell.
I just don't think that it is totally ethical. I'm sure people can do it and have done it. It's not me. I wouldn't engage in it myself. I identify and I'm practicing more of non-hierarchical polyamory, or even I'd dare to say that I'm a relationship anarchist, which we'll get into in a moment. So hypothetically, let's say we're in a primary relationship and you start seeing somebody else who also has another primary relationship. So you're like, oh, both of us are looking for secondary things. And there's like a lot of consent and communication about that. But I just feel like it's maybe challenging to find as much communication about what does it mean to be primary versus to be secondary?
Yeah.
What kinds of things are you withholding from the person who's secondary? In what ways can they be left behind or abandoned in place of the person who's primary? Again, it can happen. I just don't know anybody who's done it successfully. That's not to say that these people don't exist. But in a non-hierarchical situation, for example, when I was dating both of my partners at the time, I saw them as equal. Like if I had plans with one and the other one had an emergency, I would leave to go deal with the one that had an emergency. It wasn't equal in the sense that I was like, I'm going to spend one day a week with each of you and we spend 35 minutes together and we do this and I have to come one time at least with you. Like, it wasn't so much like that, although you can structure your relationships logistically in a way to try and like make sure that it is as even as possible. But it was more just in my mindset. One of them was not more important to me than the other. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Would you say that your relationship, Pat, is like your most long-term partner, right?
Yes.
And do you feel like that relationship doesn't hold in any way like more important to you?
No.
Not at all.
No.
You're able to like fully spread yourself equally in that kind of way?
Yeah.
Nice.
I don't know. I just and it's also very interesting because Pat no longer lives with me. So Pat and I dated for 3 years before we moved in together, and we lived together for 2 months, and then they got a job in another country. And I was like, bye. And then my other partner at the time moved in with me. This partner no longer lives with me. I'm also no longer dating this person. So my only partner right now is Pat. But it's been really interesting being like, okay, we're nesting partners, which for a lot of people would be one of the defining factors of a primary relationship. But we're not living together right now. So I feel more like, I don't know, like I love them so much. They're right now the most important person, I guess, in the world to me. But then again, not really. Like, is Pat really more important to me than my best friend? Do I love Pat more than I love my best friend? No, I don't think so.
So would you say that Pat is also your best friend? Like,
yes, but he hates it when I say that.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm like, you're my best friend. Look me in the eyes, you're my best friend.
I think it's so cute. And I said it to Pat as if I was saying like a beautiful, beautiful thing. And they got so offended.
Really?
Yeah, they were like, you're not my friend. Like, you're not a friend. And I was like, what? They're like, don't try to put me down. I was like, but those things can be equal. Yeah. Why is one less important than the other?
They coexist.
And like, I think that this is amazing that I think that you're my best friend too. Anyway, we've started working on it where I like say it more and he freaks out less, but the last two terms that I want to define are relationship anarchy.
Yeah.
So there's this incredible like short piece that you can read called the Relationship Anarchy Manifesto that kind of breaks down what the main like concepts or philosophies of a relationship anarchist are. So an anarchist from a political perspective is anyone who says, fuck the rules, we're gonna blow this shit up and start over again, right?
Yeah.
So in a relationship anarchy sense, it is the denial of hierarchy. So they do not believe in hierarchies at all. They refuse to subscribe to the relationship escalator in any way. And relationship escalators exist in monogamous relationships for sure, but can also exist in polyamorous relationships. For example, what does the escalator tell us? I meet you at a bar. Step 1, we must flirt. That's the first step. Yeah. Step 2, maybe we go on a couple dates, but we don't have sex right away because that's not what the escalator says that we should do. Maybe it's like a third or fourth date. And then after that, that's when we can start to develop feelings for one another, like, or whatever
it's like this made up set of rules.
Or it's actually the other way around. We develop feelings for each other first, and then we should probably get engaged, and then we should get married. And like some polyamorous people will follow that same structure as well. It doesn't have to have the same like really intense milestones that we think of when it comes to the escalator, like engagement, marriage, kids, owning property, but that same kind of trajectory of how a relationship is supposed to go. Relationship anarchists are like, oh, I'm going over here. Oh, like now I'm going over here. And they just do their own thing. And I've heard some relationship anarchists describe that their romantic relationships, kind of like we were starting to talk about, does not have more value than their other relationships. So like they might have like a platonic husband or like a platonic boo, and like that person is just as important as they're like the person that they're living with or whatever. The last term is solo polyamory, and I really want to talk about the differences between being single and solo polyamory, but I've been talking for so long, so does somebody else want to say something?
I'm enjoying it,
I'm super enjoying it. Yeah.
Continue.
Like, please.
Okay. Yeah. I shall
Unless
continue.
you need a sip of water.
I just need a sip of my cider from batch 1904.
We've been holding it for you since 1904.
Thank you so much. You were like, in 119 years, we'll be talking about polyamory.
And that's what this is for. This is the can.
Was that math correct?
I have no idea. I just trusted you on it.
I don't think it was
I was like, I was impressed too. I was like, they math like sick. They math hard.
The reason I want to talk about the differences between these two things is because I think a lot of people conflate them together. For example, you hear a lot of people being like, oh, like I'm solo polyamorous. And what they really mean to say is I'm single and I'm dating people.
Yeah.
Like dating. What is dating? Dating, when I think of it in the sense of like how they describe it on Friends, like the show Friends. It's like when
I've never seen Friends. Is that bad?
No, honestly, like it's okay. You're missing out on maybe like a lot of like cultural moments that like defined America and friendship and relationship. You're not very cultured, I guess.
I guess I'm not cultured.
But it's also kind of, if you watch it now, it's so fucking problematic. Like it's just bad.
When I look at it, that's the problem is I never watched it when I was growing up.
Right. So it's like, are you going to do it now?
I'm like,
You could watch it from a critical lens.
I could. That's true. Well, maybe. Okay.
If you do, let me know. Have you watched it?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I've watched it probably like 8 times.
You say of course because you're cultured. Yeah.
I'm white.
I was just going to say, well, but she's white.
That's my culture.
Yeah. On Friends, when someone's dating, they're like, I'm seeing this person, and then I'm seeing this person, and then I'm seeing this person. Like, you're just, that's what being single is, right?
Yeah.
But I think people get confused now that they're like, if I'm single, but I'm dating multiple people, I must be polyamorous.
Right.
But it's like, no, you're not. You're just.
Yeah, okay. I'm starting to see where you're like drawing the distinction. Yeah, like when you first start dating, it's like you're going on dates with multiple different people.
Totally. You're
maybe
just dating.
Hooking up with multiple different people, but you're not like in romantic relationships, like intimate feelings with multiple people.
I mean, potentially not. Potentially you are, I guess, but like it's just a different thing. So people who are polyamorous and single call themselves solo polyamorous if they're not actually. So what does it mean to be solo polyamorous?
Like you're kind of in between relationships. You're like waiting to meet someone, but you want to be in a polyamorous relationship. So that's kind of what solo polyamorous.
No, that is exactly. Yeah, you were like, I'm so hesitant when I'm going to say it anyway. So I am a polyamorous person.
Yeah.
If Pat and I were to ever break up, God, I would cry my eyes out. You'd have to pull up a couch. I'd be staying here.
If we were to have a really nice couch.
Lovely. I saw it. It's actually so cute. But if we were to ever break up, I would still be polyamorous.
Yeah.
Even though I was single. I wouldn't be solo poly. I would still be, I'm just polyamorous and I'm single.
Right.
Solo polyamory is its own thing.
It's literally dating.
No.
Okay.
I still haven't even
I'm
lost.
getting there.
Okay.
We're getting around. I'm back.
let me speak a little faster. Being solo polyamorous is when you do not want to follow the relationship escalator at all with anybody. Some people define this as being in a primary relationship with themselves first, and that everybody else is beneath their own relationship. But not everybody agrees with that terminology.
Right.
People who are solo polyamorous sometimes will define the distinction between being polyamorous and solo polyamorous by saying that they are not interested in ever living with someone, or ever getting married with someone, or ever sharing finances with someone. They want to remain their own solely autonomous being and not become enmeshed in any way with anybody that they're seeing.
Is that common?
I actually personally don't know a lot of solo polyamorous people, but they definitely exist, and they are paving the way for a lot of like polyamory stuff at large in the same way that like the most marginalized members of sometimes an even marginal like of a marginalized community set the culture. Like so much of our sex education is at the quality that it is because of asexual people.
Right.
Like so much of what I know about polyamory is because of what solo polyamory people have taught me, mostly on the internet.
Why do you think that is?
I think it's just like when you are kind of on the outskirts, you have like such a beautiful perspective that's like so unique that ends up teaching the people who are more the normies.
It's got me really curious as to like how that works, solo polyamory in particular, and like how that would make any sort of relationship like there. No matter what, it means that anybody that they date and have like an intimate relationship with is like secondary.
Potentially. So some people have this idea about being like, I'm in a primary relationship with myself and everyone else is like secondary to that. So yeah, I guess like that could happen like you said, but then there are other times where that wouldn't necessarily be the case, but it would be more like, I just don't want to live with you. I don't want to give this a label. I don't want to whatever. And some people will criticize, I guess, solo polyamorous folks by saying that they're not committed or they're flaky or whatever. And none of that has to be true at all. It's just they actually have a really strong idea of what their boundaries and desires are. And that's not one of them.
Yeah. And perhaps like that's like they really want to take control and keep control of their independence as well.
Yeah. Which relationship anarchy kind of lends itself to the same ideas around that like autonomy, like not wanting to control anybody and not wanting anyone to control you. And that's, I think, one of my biggest issues with hierarchical polyamory is because then you start to kind of blur the lines around rules versus boundaries and things where, let's say, I don't want to speak about your relationship in any way. So that's why I'm like pretending I'm dating one of you. So we're dating and I say, you can't go on a date with Carmen. Sorry. I actually decided that that's not okay. And you're like, oh, but I've already started going on cool dates with them and I really like them. And I'm like, yeah, but as your primary partner, I have veto power, which not everybody who has hierarchical relationships practices veto power. I think that it's absolutely a red flag.
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, I'm actually controlling you. Yeah. And I'm saying that you can't do this thing. And you're over here like, what the fuck? Yeah. Like, I am a whole ass human being.
Yeah.
You... all of a sudden, because of this, I've controlled you.
Yeah.
And that's not okay. Like, that's actually terrible.
Yeah.
But it can exist in small ways, too. I don't want you to go on a date with any of our mutual friends. I think that that's too complicated. Maybe we both agree with that. And that becomes an agreement that we both agree to. But, how much are we trying to control one another? Like, it becomes a little scary.
How does it actually feel like in everyday kind of, like, practice of dating, navigating these structures with different people? Like, do you solely only date, I guess like you would be dating other polyamorous people if they're dating you, right? No? Yes?
I'm like wondering, I'm like, would a monogamous person ever date me? No, because they couldn't. Because I have a whole ass other relationship.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm only dating polyamorous people.
Yeah. How do these dynamics actually like play out for you? You know what I mean? I feel like you have given some examples, but like in your dating kind of experience, do you feel like you're constantly running into these like discussion types, like structure issues?
Maybe not issues necessarily, but like I think we're in an expansion period where like all of the things that we've given labels to are like becoming like more all-encompassing, more expansive, whatever. So we have to like have these check-ins around like, when I say this word, what does it mean to you? What does it mean to me? Like,
right.
I kind of know about this stuff and I'm still confused, right? I'm like giving you these definitions and I'm like, I think. I'm pretty sure, but I could be wrong because somebody might have a completely different definition of it.
Right.
So if I'm like, hey, want to date? I'm polyamorous. You're like, yeah, cool, I'm polyamorous too. And then I watch what you're doing.
And then you're like, that's not my definition.
Yeah, I'm like, that's really weird. What the fuck is that? And you're like, I'm being polyamorous. And I'm like, what does polyamory mean to you? Huh?
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, I thought it was just like I could, cheat on everybody.
Right,
like,
without like talking about it.
Like no communication.
Yeah, like that's fucked up. Don't do that. Yeah. But yeah, so there's just like, I guess you are having a lot of these kinds of conversations with folks when you're trying to like interact and date and whatever. And I'm also like, I went on a first date last week. I'm going to see her again on Tuesday. If you come to that event, I'm actually bringing her with me. So.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
I'll see you there.
Yeah, I'll see you there.
I'll see her there.
Yeah. So when I was on this date with this person, I was like, hey, I want to like let you know a little bit about what my relationship structure looks like. Because again, I could say, oh, we're polyamorous. And they might be like,
yeah.
And I'm like, oh, well, this is how we practice polyamory. So I like, give them a little rundown or whatever.
Yeah. Here's the good old rundown.
Yeah. I'm like, pull out my notes.
The scroll.
Yeah. Throughout our 5 years.
From 1904.
From 1904. We've been drinking cider. Yeah, I guess we talk about it a lot and it comes up like all the time.
With you dating other polyamorous people, how do you, I guess, find them? Like, do you just like go on dates, put all the good old hear ye old dating app? Do you specify? Like, how do you find them? Or is it like you'll go on a date with anyone and then see?
Okay, good question. So the only dating apps that I'm on are the ones that are specific for like polyamorous people.
Okay.
Or at least apps that are like more open to that. So #open or field.
Oh, okay, cool.
And that's it. And then you can just be like hyper specific. I'm like, I'm polyamorous. I've been in a relationship for 4 years. We are semi-living together sometimes. Blah, 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 blah. These are the cliff notes of the relationship. If I'm like meeting somebody out in the wild...
In the wild.
Pat and I actually have had a conversation about this before because I was like, oh, I tell people that I'm polyamorous and in a relationship like right away. Mm-hmm. Pat's like, I don't do that. And I was like, why?
Let's talk about this.
Yeah, I'm like, why are you doing that? And they were like, oh, I just want to like see if there's a vibe first before I like go into the scroll kind of thing.
Pull out the scroll.
Right. And so like to the
You're
point.
just wrinkling the paper then.
Yeah.
There's no point.
There's no point. At this point, mine's laminated. Yeah. If his isn't laminated, he needs to go get that together. That's a good one, right? Pat would like, let's say, meet somebody at a bar and then ask them out on a date and is going on the date and this person still doesn't know that he's polyamorous.
Oh.
And I'm like,
how long are you waiting?
Yeah. And so I don't think that there's anything wrong with that. And again, like I'm not here to tell you what to do. Like if that's working for you and that kind of communication is like suitable for the people that you're connecting with, then whatever. I don't even want to go on that first date if the person doesn't know what my situation is. That is already a waste of time for me. I'm like, I don't want to do it. So like, yeah, like this person that I said that I went on a date with, I met them at my at my birthday party, and
fun.
it was really fun. I like sat on a cake. I had 3 hot pink outfits. It was fucking amazing, and
I saw those pictures.
Yeah, everybody saw those pictures, and it was at my favorite coffee shop. And the coffee shop, I asked the owner to close the place, so it was a private event for me.
Yeah,
I come in. There's fully 2 tables of people I don't know.
Oh,
and the owner of the coffee shop's like, "Oh, it's chill. I don't mind." I was like, I mind. I'm going to take my pants off and sit on a cake. Who are these people? Right? Get them out of here.
It's like they're your birthday present.
And like a cafe is a pretty intimate
setting. It's actually like a really small space. I was proper pissed off. But so there was this one table that didn't end up joining us. They just, sat there and turned their eyes the whole time to what was happening. But there was this other table there.
They just sat there?
I love that they like stayed through it all.
They stayed the whole night and didn't look up once.
That's what?
Yeah.
No, but they looked.
No.
But like secretly.
No, there was so much going on from the pictures that I saw.
You mean like you were on a cake and they were just like, I'm going to read my book?
Yeah. There was a group of 3 of them and they were just chilling, having great conversation. They didn't care about me at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
But there was this other table and they were like, nodding along to the music. And I was like, hey, like come dance. It's my birthday. Buy me a shot.
Yeah.
And that person is who I went on a date with.
Cute.
Which is really cute.
Yeah. So it was your birthday present.
It worked out.
So it's like, but I'm like getting their number and I'm like, I'm polyamorous, by the way, as I'm like getting their number.
Yeah.
Right.
If they were like, oh, I'm not.
Then it's like, delete that
I'm
right
like,
now.
I've only put in 4 numbers so far. Like, I just don't want to deal with it. But yeah.
If you meet out somebody in the wild and you tell them you're polyamorous, do you ever get like delete the numbers instantly?
No, it's never happened. But I'm also like, oh, I really would love to practice just like hitting on more people and flirting with more people. But I don't do it a lot, to be honest.
Do you wait for them to hit on you? Do you have like this cool guy mentality?
No, like I've definitely done it. Like, and I've also done it like embarrassingly. Like a couple months ago, I was at Sonder Cafe and there was this beautiful, beautiful woman sitting at the same table as me. And I was a little bit manic that day. I don't think I took my meds. And I started writing her like a little note to like hit on her. But then my pen ran out. So I asked her for a pen
to write out something
and then
for
it
her.
just kept going. It was like a letter.
Oh.
And I gave it to her and she was like, you know, like shy, whatever, like turned around and looked at me. Never heard from her. Bumped into her on the street maybe a couple weeks later and she like,
Oh.
yeah. So like sometimes my strategy is a little bit out of whack, but
I love that you had so much to say though.
what was I talking about? Why did it just keep going? I don't know.
It's also pretty funny that you asked her for a pen to write her a letter.
Why didn't I just say, hey, you're really cute?
Or as soon as the pen ran out, that was your cue to go say it in person.
So true. It went really the wrong way. It was bad. But yeah, people hit on me, I guess. Like they do, but they also like, maybe they don't.
I think people definitely hit on you.
I think they, yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I'm just like shy. I don't know.
Yeah, I want to flirt with more people though. Yeah. Are you flirty people? Like, I feel like I'm not a flirty person.
I feel like you're a
used to
flirty
be.
person.
You're like, haven't you been flirting with me this whole time? I'm like, no, that's just my
You're
face.
just here like, I've been trying.
I've been trying to like turn on my flirtiness again lately, to be honest.
Same. We both have, I
Even
think.
with you.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cute. Yeah, I'm into
but
that.
like also with like everyone, like I feel like I'm just like adding a little like
Spice?
flirty little
spice.
Right.
to Emily.
I definitely shut off my flirtiness for a while to the point where now that I'm like starting to test it out again, I'm like, how do I?
Yeah, see, this is my thing.
Where do I put my hands?
I don't know how to do it. I feel like I forgot.
I don't know if I ever knew.
I think, well, it is different for everybody, of course.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
the awkward flirts. There's like the flirts that have like really good lines, really good chat. There's the people that just do it with their eyes. I was mostly
Let's
an
practice
eye
that.
person.
I like eyes.
I used to be eyes. Now I'm like, how do I?
I think you are right though. I feel like it does start with talking about the different boundaries too. You know what I mean? And I think that is what we're missing.
Wouldn't it be sick if y'all have already got,
Exactly.
you're like, okay,
Yeah.
notes
My
in the back
scroll.
pocket. Yeah, the scroll's ready, laminated. You've already done
to
it.
go.
And you just know what to do. And then you're just ready to freaking go.
I think another kind of issue, new topic, is jealousy. Do you find yourself ever struggling with feelings of jealousy
Oh,
yourself?
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Definitely. Are you surprised?
Yeah.
Kind of. I do. I feel
Okay,
like
tell me.
you seem like you've got it all like
I've got my finger on the pulse.
Yeah.
I've got it all figured out. It's an illusion.
I'm out. You exude, I would say, confidence.
Thanks.
Yeah. So to me, I wouldn't instantly be like, they feel jealousy.
I definitely feel jealous because I'm a human. And I think anyone who's saying that they don't experience jealousy, I'm like, what? How is that possible? I think that the way that I've started thinking about jealousy is it's not something to deal with. It's not something to overcome. It's not something to hate on. It's something to exist alongside. You can either say, that makes me really jealous, and therefore I'm jealous, and now I'm jealous. And do nothing and just be like, I'm a jealous person. That thing makes me jealous. So that's a hard no or whatever. Or you can say, jealousy is something that can actually inspire me to take different actions to deal with perhaps something that's underneath the jealousy. It's an opportunity to learn more about myself. It's an opportunity to set new boundaries. It's an opportunity to learn. Not that everything has to have a silver lining and be alchemized and be useful and productive. So like if, for example, I'm feeling jealous, I'm going to like first be jealous for a little bit. What is this jealousy changing about my behavior? So I've been jealous of Pat lots of times, but interestingly, when Pat and I first started dating, Pat said that one of the things that troubled them the most about me was that I wasn't jealous enough. Pat was like, "You're not very jealous. What's up with that?" And I was like, why is that concerning you? He's like, "Oh, it makes me feel like you don't care about me." I'm like, well, that's interesting that like we've been taught that jealousy is a way to signal that we really love someone and that it's somehow a romantic thing. Like, "Oh, sweetie, you were so jealous. Like, come here. Like, let me comfort you." Like, blah, 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 blah. Like, I don't think that that's really hot, to be honest. I think that there's like other things that are probably a lot sexier to me. But that was really interesting for us to kind of deal with. And then the more that I let myself open up, the more times I started getting jealous. And so, I don't know, what can I say? Like, Pat is a lot more sexually adventurous than I am. Pat has a lot of casual sex, and I was really, really, really jealous of it. Not of the people who were having sex with Pat necessarily, but with Pat. I was jealous of Pat. I want Pat to go have sex with all the people they want to have sex with. Well, that's not my problem. My problem is, why don't I want to go have casual sex? And like my partner gets to like have all these fun adventures and I don't. Like,
was there ever a feeling of like it's not even because they're having all this casual sex and I feel like I can't?
Not that I was trying to like keep the playing field even, but more like I felt defective somehow, and that like I wasn't living my life to the fullest, and that there was like something wrong with me, and why could Pat enjoy this thing and I don't know how to do it, and I'm jealous of that. But like I was getting my cup filled in a lot of other ways. I had more like I would have more romantic connections than Pat would, and
everyone's different.
Yeah, everyone's different, I guess. I mean, yes, they are.
And I feel like you go through different phases of your life too, where you feel like more and less sexual and more interested in different things.
Totally.
You know?
And just coming to realize that like Pat and I just view sex differently. We have different desires, different speeds at which we want to obtain these desires, and like things are just different. But when I realized that I was jealous about these things, I was like, oh, so either I can take this jealousy and like get really mad at Pat and just like sit in this like shitty feeling, or I can be like, am I feeling insecure about the fact that I don't know how to flirt, and because I'm not flirting, I'm not initiating casual sex, and is that what I'm jealous? Is that where the jealousy is coming from? Is this feeling of inadequacy, and how can I deal with that? But if you are watching Penelope here flirting with Laura, and you're like, damn, I'm feeling really, really, really jealous right now. And then you recognize that you're jealous because they're having a conversation about Star Wars, and you didn't know that Laura loves Star Wars and you love Star Wars, and you're like, this can be information that there is a piece that you'd like to integrate within your relationship. I'm feeling super jealous that my partner is going on super adventurous dates with someone. Maybe that's a sign that you haven't gone on an adventurous date with your partner in a long time. So like it can show us things. But yeah, jealousy is not necessarily something to be overcome. It's not your enemy. It can be a friend. I feel jealousy not just in my romantic partners though, but in my friendships. I feel jealous about certain family. I feel jealous about career. That's probably the biggest one for me, the biggest wound. I feel jealous sometimes scrolling on social media. I refuse to believe that I'm a jealous person. I'm just somebody who experiences jealousy and then goes like and deals with it, like everyone.
Another feeling that I feel like ties in with the jealousy is kind of like fear as well, if that makes sense. Like fear of losing somebody when you open up a relationship. Do you feel like that's something that is a challenge at all for you? I feel like it's something that both you and Pat have been constantly open about though. So
I don't have a fear of losing Pat because them meeting somebody else doesn't mean that I then cease to exist. Like that's the whole point of the polyamory thing, right? Is that we can all be coexisting. But there has been a fear of being the most special. Am I no longer the most special? Am I no longer the best this? And like you actually have to let that part go. That I don't know. I don't know. I feel it sometimes where I'm like, Pat always tells me that I'm such a good kisser and that I'm just like, I've got the perfect mouth. He's always talking about my mouth. And I'm like, oh my God, like what if they start kissing someone who's got like a better mouth than me? That would be heartbreaking. But like, do I have to be the best? Or is it enough to just be like, I have a lovely mouth and my partner really loves kissing my mouth? And
have you ever experienced people like feeling like someone's attention is pulling away from you less? How do you find time to prioritize this many relationships in your life? Which I feel like you have a lot of love to give, just the way that you talk about like how many different relationships that you have and like how much energy you're able to give to everyone. But how do you manage I don't know, like all of these different relationships all at once and make sure that everyone feels good, including yourself.
Yeah. So again, right now I'm only in one romantic partnership, but I'm having like casual sex with a couple people, some ongoing. I love to spend time with my friends, all that stuff. When I was in the thick of it with 2 partners, we would have like schedules. Who's going to be home at this time? Do you want to have sex with this person at the house from this? Okay, so we 2 of us have to get out so that you can have sex with this time, and you want to. So it's like a lot. It's probably the least sexy part of the situation is just the scheduling, the logistical aspects of it.
Does that ever complicate things?
It's complicated, maybe not in the way that we would assume. Like, I'm just kind of really anal, specifically around scheduling. Like, I'm very like, you don't know your schedule for next week yet? That's weird to me. I know what I'm doing 6 months from now.
Yeah.
I don't think the best sides of me were showing up when we were doing scheduling stuff.
Right.
Oh, I see.
Because that was...
I see.
You know what I mean? I'd really like to get better at it, but yeah, I'm a little bit anal in that way. But there are definitely more calm and loving ways to do it, and I can't wait to learn how to do it because that was not good.
Even just in our relationship, I feel like sometimes I don't even have time for friends, which is like shitty. Like I always am like consciously prioritizing friends, but it's just finding time to prioritize so many people in your life. And I feel like on the kind of romantic level, and I mean friendships can be like that powerful as well. I have like really strong friendships too, where it's like we have that kind of like, it's almost like a romantic bond where we've been there for each other in that kind of way. But it's like, for me, it's like the relationships fall in and out a little bit, like they ebb and flow. And like to be my friend, you have to kind of understand that. Like my life is kind of like, I don't know. And it's like, I love you always though, you know, but it's like, I will come in and out of your life and just like,
but that's exactly it. So the way that I navigate it is exactly the same, and being upfront about what my capacities are, and then giving the other person enough of an opportunity to make a decision for themselves about whether or not they're willing to engage with that.
Yeah.
So I might say like, hey, I'm not a very good texter. It's not that I'm not a good texter. I don't like texting. Yeah. So I could, be starting to speak with someone and being like, I don't like to text. And they might say, oh, that's actually a deal breaker for me. Like, I'm not going to. So I think it's as navigating it is as best as you can, knowing what your capacity is, knowing what your boundaries are, and stating them up front, and then updating people as they change so that they can make informed decisions for themselves.
Yeah.
There's a term called being polysaturated, which is when you are at the maximum level of partners that you can have, but you can be saturated as a monogamous person. You can be saturated in general, just looking at all the different facets in your life that require your time and energy, right? And so for me, when I was having 2 like committed partnerships and like the amount of friends that I had, I was like, oh, I'm close to the edge here, and if I go any more than this, like everything's just going to fall apart. So I think that just the self-awareness of what you can do is probably the best way to navigate it.
Yeah, I feel like that definitely is like another piece for the 2 of us too, is like finding that time and capacity as well. Is like right now I feel like I'm trying to prioritize myself and us, you know, and like family relationships and friends is also like almost an overwhelming feeling to me right now. Like I feel like I'm letting those slip, so it's like hard to even consider bringing in another, you know.
And I think that's really like really honest and amazing, and maybe some of those other things that you're dealing with right now will eventually start to let off a little bit, and you'll have a little bit more space and you can try it, or you don't want to and it's not for you. Who knows?
Maybe.
Let me know. I'm curious.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Oh my God, thank you so much. This was so much fun.
So that is everything for today. Please do subscribe if you found this video helpful, and until then, we will see you next time. Peace.